Your hosts are Jared and Jason, and you have arrived at the after party. The crown winner of last week goes to No White Guilt Clips, financially gifting $15. Thank you so much, and congratulations. Second place goes to the one and only Rory Herbert, financially gifting $5. Thank you so much, dear brother. You all may financially gift over the course of this stream on Entropy, which will be up in a moment, at 15%. If you're interested, Odyssey is also 15%. And then Cash App is no charge. You will find the URLs for all of those in the description below. As you know, Jared and I evenly share all of the financial gifts with our guests here on the after party. Now, today we have the one and only, going to be talking about fitness today, Carlisle Cockatoo. And with that, I will ask Carlisle to introduce herself to the esteemed community, and then Jared George will take us into this conversation about all things health and fitness.
So I am Carlisle, and I have been a guest here for, I think this is my third time, and we have covered so many fascinating subjects on this show, squirrels and otherwise. And tonight we're going to be talking about fitness, not squirrel fitness, just regular human fitness. So I'm excited.
Human fitness, that's right.
Yes, some of the past shows were a little heavier in nature, so
Exactly.
we're going to have a lighter conversation tonight. And yeah, it's come up on the after party. There are a couple of dedicated episodes to health and fitness and wellness, and we fielded some questions a couple of years ago. But it's always good to check back in with that, especially as, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are things when you look at the news and social media that could be construed from certain angles as being stressful on people right now. And it's very important to keep yourself limber, have a good diet. There's different ideas about nutrition, but we could at least maybe talk about some, I guess, fundamentals, common denominators that unite different dietary approaches and other sorts of things. So, Carlisle, what is on your mind?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the gym. I go almost every day, occasionally twice a day. And I'm a big fan of running, and I do some weightlifting and not weightlifting, but like machines and that kind of thing, and mat work, like with the little bands and all that. But I think that, as a female, there's definitely different areas of working out that we probably aren't usually as knowledgeable of, because it's I think it's a little awkward sometimes for girls to seek out the gym employees and ask, how do I use this, or what do I do on this? So a lot of times you'll see girls just kind of making it up as they go along, oh, this looks like the way you should use this. So
Right.
it'll be fun to find out the appropriate way to use things and the right way to work out, because you always want to be fitter, as fit as you can be. That's what Steve is reaching for, my large
The dog.
Yeah.
Yes. Formerly known as Brian, as we were discussing before the show. For someone with the name Carlisle Cockatoo, you talk more about rodents and canines more than birds, but I don't want to get us off track. We do want to talk. We're talking about human fitness today, everybody. So get your questions in. Of course, we want to make this useful for the people listening now, live or in replay. So you're very active, obviously, from what you just described. What would you say to people who are just getting started, especially about motivation and making it fun, not making it feel like a chore?
Well, I think that probably goes back to why you want to work out. I think that probably is the main thing. If you're doing it for, maybe someone else, or maybe because you feel you have to, then maybe you're not going to be as good about, keeping a schedule. But if you, if you're really doing it because you want to feel better, and I think that's the main thing, is if you will stick with it for a couple of weeks, you will absolutely start to feel better, even before you start to look better. and you start to actually lose weight, you will absolutely start to feel better. Like I feel better every time I leave the gym. I feel better for having calm.
Yeah, there's a sense of well-being. You get a bit addicted to it. Yeah, you mentioned running. I mean, everyone always assumed that I was a runner, and in high school, the track coach like got on me for not being on the track team because he's like, you have a runner's body. And honestly, I never really liked running. I'm trying. Obviously, the weather is getting warmer, and I have a friend that wants to go running a little bit, so I'm trying to get back into it. And I know there's probably different feelings about this. We all know it's great to be outdoors, but sometimes circumstances are such that I would say the treadmill was still a good invention. I'm glad it exists. So I've gotten on the treadmill a couple times this week, just like not anything too intense, fast walking and then into a light jog and then back to fast walking. First of all, I could tell you, you're right. Even that tiny bit, because I haven't been that active in a cardiovascular sense recently, so I know I have to work that back up, especially with singing and everything. Um, just that tiny bit, then like the next day, my body just feels that much better. Just getting oxygenated, the blood flowing. Uh, what would you say, especially with running? Like how do you approach running? Because it's always I love so many other things, so many other aspects of fitness, but it's just never taken with me just going and running.
I think, again, I really think probably running is something that either you really love to do or you just don't. So maybe running isn't going to be for you, just because I mean it's something people really embrace. Like when you meet people, they are like, I am a runner, or I
Yeah, it
will
becomes
never
like
run.
an identity. Would you
Right.
say that? Do you put that in your bio? Is it
Absolutely.
to that
Absolutely.
point? You're a runner. Yeah.
Yeah. Right under like Groundhog rights activist, it's
Yes.
Yes.
runner. Right under there. Second line for sure.
Yes. And dog fat camp operator apparently for Steve, or director of activities for doggy fat camp, if we're allowed to say that in 2022. Do you think so? I don't know. Maybe you research this or not. These aren't on the spot questions. If you don't know, we could go to other things. Just a freewheeling conversation, everybody. Like you're a fly on the wall and we're hanging out at a restaurant or something. But do you know? Because I've heard this like batted about that certain body types are like you're physiologically a runner. Like you just said, how some
Mhm.
people just love running. Have you ever looked into that?
I do think so. I think that probably lighter people are going to be more likely to enjoy it because, I mean, honestly, if you have a lot of mass, and I'm not talking like necessarily even overweight people, just, there are just people that are built bigger.
Sure.
They're not even like unhealthy bigger, they're just bigger people. And they're not going to run. Like you don't see like bodybuilders who are obviously in, good shape or whatever. You don't see them on the treadmill running because, there's no way. It's just not going to be comfortable for them. So I do think that probably lighter built people are more likely to enjoy it just because you really get that sensation of kind of letting yourself free, like you're just
Yeah, yeah.
you're just really, and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing, and you just keep going. And I think that that is probably easier to do if you're, smaller and lighter than if
Yeah,
you're.
I'm very light. I'm very classic ectomorph, very thin body type. But I like cardiovascular activities like tennis and soccer. I need a ball. I'm like your dog. I need the ball to do something. Maybe I just need to surpass some kind of threshold and get to that runner's high.
I think
What?
so, because once you feel that, that's when you keep going. Like once I get to the point where it's like those endorphins kick in, then it's like, oh, I can run forever. Because that first like 10, 15 minutes where you're kind of working up to that, and you're kind of, you're getting your speed, and you're really taking the strides, but you're just kind of not there, and it's kind of work. And then after that, it's just like going downhill, even if you have the treadmill at an incline and you're actually going uphill. So
Yeah, like a momentum takes over. I don't know if any of you, I'll throw this in early too, just because I want to keep hitting different subjects and again hopefully that it's helpful for some of the people listening. I've recently discovered, I don't know if either of you have seen any of this, or maybe I'm late to the game. I don't think it's a brand new thing, but increasingly I've found a couple of YouTube channels that do Primal Movement. And it's this interesting combination of just stretching, calisthenics, things with more posture oriented like yoga, and but there's movement to it. And the idea is you're using muscles and you're building core and you're building flexibility. I forget the terminology. I'm sure one of you knows, but there's something about a certain type of strength that's related to flexibility. Like you need a certain amount of strength to be flexible. But it's also, they're very intuitive, almost childlike movements sometimes. Like when you were rolling around the floor in preschool, obviously it's more structured than that, but it gets you in touch with this very playful state of mind too. I've been doing it a little bit on and off since the autumn for the last several months, and I have to say I really like it.
really,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. But it
Yeah,
sounds
I recommend everybody look up the Primal Movement. I guess it's just certain trainers have kind of they were interested in different things and wanted to blend them all together and kind of do this interdisciplinary approach. I mean, I like machines and weightlifting too, and I've just kind of gotten into a routine with that, like a lot of guys do early on. But I'm really liking the idea of expanding.
Oh
Maybe,
yeah,
because
I
that's
think that's good.
I always like I need variety.
Yeah, and I think the body needs variety. You know, like if you do the same stuff like every time you go or every other time, or you have like one routine this day and then another routine, and you never like shake it up. Like when I was in cheerleading, we would in college we would do almost like what is now considered like CrossFit. Sort of like where you're doing like a little bit of cardio, and then they would have you do like push-ups, and then they'd have you do like strength stuff, and you would do like different stuff all the time, because I think the idea is the body has to kind of keep guessing or it's going to get
Yes.
used to it.
Yes. I know Jason and I've talked about that even with just straight up weightlifting in terms of if a guy wants to develop muscle. There's a lot of different factors to it. It keeps it fun. I think there's maybe even a cognitive element where if you're doing like weightlifting one day but doing the kind of primal movement stuff I was just describing the next day, you get into a different mindset too. And I'm sort of like neurologically, it's keeping different parts of your brain active, might even help keep your brain young, obviously keeping your body young, but everything's connected. So making sure that you remain alert and mentally healthy as you age, I'm sure this has a lot to do with it as well.
Oh yeah, well, because you're right. If you do the same thing over and over again, then you're gonna start phoning it in mentally. Like you're not even thinking about it. Like at work when you do like the same thing, and then you're like, oh yeah, I could do this with my eyes closed. And it's kind of the same thing. So if you do the same machines and the same weight and the same everything, and you don't really have to focus on anything new, then you're right, your brain just gets used to that. We get into patterns.
Yeah. Do either of you think that, again, for the new person who wants to get active, but they don't really have any kind of exercise routine, that maybe instead of, gritting their teeth and setting too big of a goal at first, is maybe just allow themselves a couple of weeks of exploration, maybe like doing a little weightlifting one day, maybe doing a little cardio, maybe doing the kind of primal stretching calisthenic stuff I just talked about another day, and just treating it more again like you're a kid and you're just trying things out, and at least one of those things hopefully would feel good and be fun. And then, like you said, you don't want to stay with that one thing forever, but you do need kind of an entry point, and to not get overwhelmed. I would imagine most people are they're going to, it's kind of selfish, but it's how it works is you're going to want to find something that's fun for you and feels right. And then once you're used to moving your body, maybe a month or two into it, then you can challenge yourself, maybe go to something that wasn't as natural at first. But I don't know. I would just say my layman's advice It's just, you have to get the ball rolling somehow, get some kind of momentum, make it enjoyable, and then from there you can kind of fan out, go to the Swiss Army knife approach, but maybe try things at first, see what's fun. That was just
Oh yeah, I think that's a
kind of
great.
obvious sounding, but
No, but it's not though for some people, because I think some people, especially people that haven't worked out, they kind of do get like stuck in the mindset of, okay, so I have to do cardio every time I work out, and I have to do weights, and I have to do, and there's really not anything that you have to do. You just have to be active. And then, there are probably some guidelines that you should follow, but that you don't have to go and do 20 minutes on the treadmill if that's not your thing. Because you're right, you need to find something that is going to work for you, in the sense that you're going to want to make it work for you. If it's just absolute misery, you're really not going to want to do it. And you're going to come up with all kinds of reasons as to like why you can't do it. So you just really need to focus in on trying out different stuff so you can figure out what's going to work.
yeah, make it manageable. That's why I was offering that. As I said, as simple as it sounds, you are right. When people start something and they look at all these things they think they have to do, it seems overwhelming. I
Oh,
remember catching myself. I don't know if anyone did this in school, especially college, when they would give you the syllabus all at the beginning of the semester, and so you read on this sheet of paper all the different books you're going to read and the different assignments and the different papers and the couple tests. And it's really overwhelming. But then day to day to day, over the next 3 months, it's really not. But people,
right.
whatever the word is for that sums that up. When you get overwhelmed by just looking at too much at once, I'm sure a lot of people do when they're beginning exercise.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you go to the gym and you see people that have been going for a really long time. And so they have really nice bodies. And then people look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, like I've got to do whatever those people are doing, and I've got to like come in like 7 days a week and 3 hours every time. And that's how you get really burned out. That's how people will stop coming. So,
Yeah. Jason, I remember you saying when we did one of these episodes on health a couple of years ago, how a lot of people make the mistake of too much at first, and then they don't realize even something like a light jog, if you haven't done it, you can tear ligaments. You're using your body in a new way, and you have to ease into it.
Without question, one of the biggest problems, or the biggest problem, when people want to get into a better state of health and fitness, is that they, just like you two have been articulating, they bite off far more than they can chew. And so they, even as you both are pointing out accurately, even a little bit of physical exercise, when one has been mostly sedentary, is going to produce a lot of lactic acid buildup, a lot of soreness. All of those little tears in the muscles also take place. They hurt, and they also take place, those tears in the ligaments and tendons. And we can get, the older we are, the longer it takes to recover, to heal. And so we end up with sore spots. And then very often when we get sore, we favor that spot, and that makes something else get sore. So the most important thing to do in the very beginning is to pick something that is impossible to screw up for you. And if that means you go once a week, you go every Monday at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever it is, then I recommend that's what you do. And you make a commitment that you're never going to miss that Monday, unless you're in a car crash or whatever it is, and then but you'll be there on Tuesday in traction with whatever your injuries are. And the reason why is because we need to habituate ourselves to doing things, especially things that in working out is breaking you down. It's beating yourself up a little bit. And so you need to habituate yourself to that, because the desire to have a better chest or lose weight or whatever it might be, better BMI, the desire to do that wears off fast. And as soon as that's gone, once the desire's gone and it's replaced by a bunch of stiff muscles and aching joints, people quit. So you got to start in a way that is that's going to enable you to habituate yourself to it, so that it becomes regular. And once you are habituated to whatever that regularity may be, then you can begin adding other things. I actually recommend for folks to not start at a gym. A lot of people think, oh, I've got to make this big commitment, and if I make the commitment, then I'll have to go. But no, you wouldn't believe how many people, maybe you would, how many people end up spending a bunch of money on a membership at a gym and then just stop going. And then, a year later they come in, why am I being billed? You joined.
Go to the gym in January after everyone made the New Year's resolution, then go in February.
Yeah. And then they're done. So yeah, if it's unlikely that you'll be able to keep a commitment at a gym, then you should start at home. And it still could be a commitment. Very easy nowadays with all of the tech. You can set alarms on your phone and refrigerator and everywhere else. Our pets, soon enough, will set alarms on them and they'll come tell us it's time to work out. But as long as you start doing it, but it really comes down to, you have like this, I guess you have this ground zero, if you will, the starting point for everybody. But that starting point can go a bunch of different directions depending upon where the person is and what they're trying to accomplish. So runners, while we're talking about running, some people discover that they love to run quite young. Other people, they don't discover that they like to or enjoy to run until they're older. In all cases, though, you should do. It's like wanting to read more. You don't pick the classics because you've heard that people read the classics. Don't go grab Shakespeare because readers have read Shakespeare. And this speaks to what Carlisle was saying. That, you go to the gym and you see these people with great physiques, and then you think, well, I've got to do what they do. Absolutely not. You should pick, if you want to get into reading, you pick things that you enjoy. If you want to get into running or you want to test it out, then pick running in an environment that you enjoy. If that's at the lake or at the pond or whatever, because of the scenery, you like to look at the mallards or the young ladies or whatever it is at the lake, then run there. Don't think that you have to be on that perfectly laid track inside the gym on the second floor that overlooks the rest of the gym or whatever it might be. Find the place that works for you. But you both have talked about some really interesting things. You both mentioned upon the neurological. There is like an emotional benefit, but to working out. And if you have a cardio, if you engage in a cardio activity, so elevated heart rate for just over 30 minutes, you stay, and it does. Now you can be running, walking, you can be on a cross-country skier, you can be resistance training with machines or free weights, as long as you stick with it, so that you're not recovering and then you've restored your breath to normal. You don't have to have no rest in between sets, but as long as you're staying winded, if you will, then your body will produce what's called BDF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And essentially, it's like Miracle-Gro for the neurons. And I don't know if anybody else has in the brain. I don't know if anybody else has theorized this or not, but I have come to the conclusion that the reason why the body produces BDNF when it is put under the stress of cardio activity is because in a more primitive time, intense cardio activity would have brought us to a new environment. Your body would not be where it was. You didn't have a machine to work out on. There wasn't a gym. So if you were really exerting yourself, you would be in a new environment, a new area. And so that would mean that you have to find your way home. That would mean that you have to find the things in the new environment that are important for survival. And therefore, it would make sense that the brain would rev up its ability to do things like record the new environment and to recall how to find and ascertain the things you need to be able to survive. So there is an actual a benefit to your brain, your thinking, your memory, etc. When you work out, at least if you have this cardio, element involved. But you have the other end of the spectrum where folks they just want to achieve hypertrophy. They want their muscles to get as big as possible. There's a whole realm here. So if folks have questions, I will say that Carlisle, she runs all the time. She is very physically fit. She works out all the time. She stretches, uses machines. So if you're a lady and you have some questions for her about working out, tag me in the live chat. Or guy, maybe you want to do the same things, work with bands and things like this. She knows what she's talking about. But any questions from anybody for any of us, please tag me over the course of this hour and 15 minutes or so, and we will be sure to get to it. We all have a little bit of knowledge, and a little bit of knowledge can get somebody started off in the right direction. That's what we want to achieve here today.
A cowboy had some interesting questions from the chat. So he said, working out, is it a hobby or a lifestyle? Now, maybe we should all answer that. For me, it is definitely a lifestyle, because if I don't work out, I would not be well. Like I have to work out. It has become an absolute addiction for me. But for some people, maybe it is a hobby. Maybe they just do it to kind of have, a little bit of physical fitness, but they're not totally obsessed with it, and it's just something they do on occasion. But that was my answer, if you guys want to answer, because I thought that was a good question.
Yeah, it's just say it can be a hobby, but it has such an effect on all the other aspects of your life that it will, if you do it enough, it will have an effect on your lifestyle. It doesn't have to be a lifestyle, meaning that you put it in your bio like Carlisle does under Go for Rights Activist.
Mm-hmm.
And half of your wardrobe is kind of athletic gear and things like that. If that's what the person meant by lifestyle, yeah, obviously it doesn't have to be. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and fits your time preferences and your goals and your personality. But it does have that. It has a cascading effect onto all the other aspects of your life. It, I've been there. We've all been there, where you think you don't have enough time, but then you realize when you're slacking on working out, all of a sudden you're more tired and less effective in other things you're doing. So you get back that time that you put in at the gym or homework, whatever the workout is, running, you get that back. It's the return on investment shows up in all the other areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Well said. I'll just say that if you are, a hobby is something that you dip into, usually quite a lot initially, and then you have these sort of waxing and waning periods where you dabble only a little bit, and then you get back into it a little bit more intense. You can't stay in shape that way. The body needs regular activity to maintain whatever status you achieve. So, and it requires more investment to gain. Then once you gain, though, it requires less investment to maintain. You just have to keep with it. So ultimately, if you want to be in a better state of physical fitness, you're going to have to make it more of a lifestyle. It's got to be part of your life. Eating right, stretching, exercising. It has to become part of your life. Don't let it dominate you, because that's ultimately goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago, which is you get started and you go after it too hard, and you have maybe a week or 2 months of hitting it really hard and getting really sore, and then you quit because it's just not worth all of the pain. So you got to work it into your life as a lifestyle.
Yeah, with that definition of hobby, then I would agree.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
I have a question, maybe on behalf of some listeners now or in the future. Carlisle, with cardio, not something I've really looked into myself, but I know it's a question a lot of people have. If their goal is burning fat loss, I know that I've heard different commentators say that just getting on the treadmill or just running without other factors being considered actually might not burn the fat as quickly and as easily as people think.
I think so too.
So
Absolutely.
what's the story with that then?
I think that I think the recommended, and I mean, it's interesting too though, because different bodies seem to respond differently to like different exercises and different forms of exercise. So, but I think that the recommended, and I think that what usually works is mixing it up a little bit. So I think that cardio is good for burning like calories probably and getting your heart rate going. But as far as like actually, if the goal is to lose fat, you have to replace the fat with muscle, right? So it's like you have to build the muscle, because if you're just doing cardio and you're just losing the fat, but you're not replacing it with muscle, then you're just going to have like this excess skin. And, you know, that's obviously not the end goal for somebody who's trying to lose weight and get into a better physical condition.
I think
So
what I
it's
heard,
important to do the weightlifting too.
yes, I've heard about that, of course, doing the two in tandem, but also, and again, I'm just relaying things I've heard. We're having a conversation, not a health expert, not giving medical advice. I think one of the aspects I heard in relation to that topic is that after a certain threshold, and it's not too far into a run, let's say, is you actually start burning glucose and it's not fat.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. And I think that is why, and I've heard Jason talk about this too, is that it's really important to consume a lot of protein before and after a workout, because if not, then the workout doesn't really count. I mean, it still counts in the sense that it gives you the endorphins and, you know, if that's what you're looking for. But as far as like making a change in the body, then I think that it's not actually as effective as people would think. So a lot of girls, I think, fall into that trap, is that they starve themselves and then work out, thinking that they're going to lose weight faster and get into a better shape faster. And that's actually false. That doesn't help.
Yeah, when it comes to losing weight, there's definitely a multi-pronged, successful, and pretty simple approach. And unless you have a disease of some sort, always successful. But there are so many fads because there are billions of dollars to be made, and so that's why there's so much confusion. Ultimately, you have to be if you want to lose weight rapidly, you have to be in a negative caloric environment. You have to burn more calories than you consume during the day. The human body is terrible at burning fat relative to a bear or something like this. So we end up with burning about 60% fat to about 40% muscle. So just as Carlisle's mentioning there, you want to have weight training as part of your regimen if you're losing weight, because you'll be losing muscle. And that means muscle density. The muscles, not only its size, but also the density, your strength. And that's why so many women, when they decide they're going to lose weight, they decide that they're going to cut back on their calories. They know that's important. But then with the calories that they eat, they choose to consume useless calories, carbohydrates, things like, because they taste good. So they figure, I'd rather have like the croissant rather than the beef patty or whatever it might be, or the chicken or whatever it might be. And as a consequence, if they starve themselves, they will lose weight, but they don't look like they expect it to look, because the muscles then hang on the body as though they were fat. And I've seen women complain about, how do I get rid of this? And I'm like, that's your tricep muscle. You actually don't want to get rid of that. You want to firm that up where it is. And just cardio is absolutely not the way to go, as Jared's pointing out, when you're trying to lose weight. We've had a couple people mention and I wanted to say this earlier, that for some folks, getting involved in a lifestyle to be healthier, to be more fit, to be more attractive, can start with an activity, a sport, a martial art. There are a lot of activities that adults and people, out of school can engage in. Communities have different types of leagues, flag football leagues, dodgeball leagues, softball leagues, all kinds of things that folks, volleyball, people can get involved in. And in those cases, also start off slowly, because an injury is more likely in a sports setting. But if it's something like a martial art, the training will be controlled. And so you shouldn't be taking risks. But maybe whereas in playing volleyball, you might do something stupid, like when you were 17, you dove for the ball and you saved the game. Well, at 35, you dive for the ball and save the game. You're in traction for a week. So that might be the place you start. I mean, even something, even activities like archery, just getting yourself out and using your muscles in your body, and being a little bit more cognizant of what you're putting into your body. This can be a great place to start for folks. And I've seen, who was it? Somebody said that they walk a couple of miles a day with 2 times a week. That's fantastic. That's if that works for you, then stick with that. And if you want to stick with it, even if you want to go further, you can just begin to incorporate other things. Horseback riding, yeah, absolutely is an exercise. Don't take up dirt bike riding when you're older.
Is that from personal experience?
Well, the dirt bike riding is definitely a teenager's sport, because you are beat up so much on a dirt bike that it's all about just healing. You're always healing. So, and the older we get, the longer it takes to recover. But don't want to be in that environment where you're just laying in bed trying to recover from whatever injury, because you're not getting into better shape then.
Yeah, one of the common denominators of all this is just keeping the blood and the oxygen moving. So think about it like water. If water's flowing, it's a lot cleaner than when it's still. So anything to initially get you moving, get the blood and the oxygen moving, all the things in the tubes in your body, get them moving. It's going to help your digestion too.
Yeah.
Because, other things need to move as well. This might be the first time we broach this topic on the after party, but a lot of times even your emotional state is, you're quite literally full of crap. And a lot of people don't really think about that or realize that, but what's being held on, that department can have a big effect on your mood, your motivation, your energy levels. And so, well, exercise is at least going to help in that regard too. It's not the only thing.
Yes, it gets everything moving in the body. Everything because quite frankly, I mean, we were moving around, and we had to move to live, to survive, for far longer than being able to be sedentary. So our innards are not designed to function without the body moving, without the body work. So there are plenty of many cases where people have been unwell, and then they got into a lifestyle where they were more active, and a lot of the problems that they were having cleared up with their health as soon as they got into a healthy, active mindset, and then engaged in activity. I want to, instead of just waiting to the very end of the show, the final 15 minutes or so, to take a look at any questions, but I think probably on today's show we should do that during, because these are folks are going to have questions about, if you're out there right now, you want to get bigger chest, you want to have tighter thighs, you want to drop some pounds, you want to put on some pounds of muscle, whatever it might be, make sure you ask those questions while we are addressing these subjects. And many wonderful people we have. Let's see, Promethean Epoch is asking in the live chat, what about healthy carbs, like a potato before and after a workout? He says that's what Blair recommends. A complex carbohydrate like a potato, I would say this, if I were going to add anything to that, it's more about what you ate yesterday than what you eat right before your workout. Your body is going to be working on that potato, and because it's a complex carb, so that you can use it later. In fact, when you work out and you burn a bunch of calories, eating something like a complex carb after the workout is good, because you've used some of the calories that were in you. And later in the day, if you don't want to begin to consume your body, you're going to need more calories. So you then would consume the potato there. For me personally, I stay far less carbohydrates than protein. But there's nothing wrong with a complex carb while you are either before or after your workout, because you want the calories, like I say. We also have over on, Entropy. We have, and we'll get to the financial gifts one second, very quickly. We have Dude says, for Jason, do you eat fruit? Any fruit you wouldn't eat? Likewise with vegetables, bread, and fruit juice. I will have orange juice in the morning, but otherwise juices are almost entirely sugar. So that's a simple carb, and your body, if you don't use it right away, then your body, and depending upon how active you are, and therefore your metabolism, your body might just put it right into fat. And not only that, not only activity, but how often you eat. So how well you have tricked your body into believing that food is abundant, and therefore it doesn't need to store any of it. So fruit juices, I stay away from. Bread, I absolutely stay away from. Fruits, every now and again. And vegetables are good. So again, it's a question of sugar and the simple carb aspect of it. Carlotta says, just confronting diverse people on the Hake Report went surprisingly well and was very productive. Thank you for that. It was a fun time over there. Should non-sympathetic people be invited to tap from time to time? Maybe so. We could have them, where they are respectful. Absolutely. We can't have somebody go off on the channel, at least if we're streaming to YouTube. That would be objectionable. We have Sauna financially gifting $3. Thank you so much. What muscle or muscles have any of you struggled to exercise the most or in the past? Mine was my shoulders and upper pectorals. Well, we'll throw it over to Carlisle. What's a muscle group that you have struggled with getting to the place you would like the muscle group to be?
I think that for me, probably the core, like lower back and abs, is something that I still work on, and that has always been a priority. In cheerleading, it was, really important to have that for balance and being at the top of the pyramids and learning how to land correctly all involves core control. So it's always been something, though, that I really work on, and I feel it. If I don't work my back, then I really feel it in my lower back. Like, I think, because girls carry weight differently, our lower backs can sometimes really feel the weight that we carry in other places. So I think that that is something that I've struggled with, because I think it's harder for girls to build abs and to work the core area. Like, we seem to have, and arm strength too, but the core seems to be harder for me. Planks are really challenging for me.
Yeah, important. I don't bodybuild, you need to see my picture of the thin guitar player, but core's been a focus, but I think the person's probably just asking, like everyone has parts that don't grow as much. So when I do look relative to my body type, when I do look a little filled out, my shoulders and triceps develop pretty quickly. But as a guy, I don't have, my bicep doesn't develop. Like it gets bigger, but I don't have that shape. Again, even relative to my small frame. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder and bulbous, but that rounded bicep, like I enjoy doing curls and different things that work the bicep muscle, but I have more of like a bar shape than that ball shape of the bicep, So everyone has their parts of the body that lag or don't develop as much, but I make up for it when, shoulder and tricep fills out. So it gives the illusion of looking a little bigger, or at least have that V shape that's nice on guys.
Right. Yeah. One of the hardest things to do is to train a muscle. It's like training a plant. So as to train a muscle to grow in the way you want it to grow. And that can really require a significant time investment. So exactly as Jared's talking about there isn't if Jared or somebody with his exact body type were to start doing curls every single day, that doesn't mean that at some point his bicep is going to look just like Schwarzenegger's. That his muscle, Schwarzenegger, paid attention to how he was growing the muscle. Just like if you're training a clematis to hang to a fence so that when it blooms, maybe you have like this wave that runs down the fence of blooms. You have to train the muscle. If there's a specific way you want it to look, you have to train to that look. And it's not a wide variety of variation there, but there is some variation. But those are two great points. We have the great Rory, and it's this gentleman. He's coming in with a $5 financial gift, and I've been astonished time and again the connections that this hero of the West has with the champions and folks notable from the past, and so he's a very serious and gentleman. We are very happy to have him in this community. He asked this very serious question: what is Carlisle's opinion on groundhog fitness? Is burrowing enough to keep them fit, or does she agree with me that exiting their burrows and performing press-ups or star jumps, that's push-ups and jumping jacks for Americans, would improve their fitness? Hashtag Staten Island Steve.
Absolutely. And first of all, I would like to say yes, hashtag Staten Island Steve, hashtag not one more. Anyone who needs to find out about that can look back at prior episodes. But yes, I think groundhog fitness needs to be a central part of the groundhog advocacy that Rory and I are going to work together on. Absolutely.
The spectacle of a groundhog doing push-ups, that's hilarious. I got to find Groundhog Fury. He did a self-portrait, and I'll have to put it up on the screen so you all can see. He's done a few push-ups, I think.
But yes, burrowing is not enough.
Burrowing is
there needs to be some kind of advocacy, like public relation campaign with groundhogs about, burrowing is not enough to keep you fit.
I'll write a song called "Burrowing Is Not Enough." Maybe we'll have a lot of people sing on it, like a "We Are the World" kind of thing.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
For charity. What about going on that theme of keeping the body moving and having fun and expanding the idea of fitness from what people think of as typical workouts? So you said you were a cheerleader. Were you ever a dancer?
I was when I was little. So I did ballet and tap when I was little, and I was also an ice skater when I was young. I took ice skating lessons and competed until I was probably 10 or 11. And so I was really physically active for a long time. I mean, I started ice skating when I was 3. Like as soon as I could put skates on, I was on ice. So I did a lot of different activities: gymnastics, ballet, tap. But I think that all of that kind of gets you ready for, the college kind of sports like cheerleading. I played tennis too in college. Well, I took it as a class. So
Yeah.
you have to have that like physical education class or whatever. So it was tennis. But I saw somebody in the chat say that they did archery. This was on the D-Live chat, and I think that's really cool. I also saw someone else, and this is kind of off topic but on topic. Someone else in the chat said that they we're asking about like hot tubs and cold tubs. And do you have any experience with that? Like I've been in saunas and I've enjoyed them because you get a really good, like your heart rate gets going and you sweat a lot. You get the toxins out. But I don't know if you've had any. I've not used like hot tubs or saunas as like part of a workout regimen.
Everything I've heard about them, there can be a lot of health benefits if you do it right, as long as it's not too extreme with the heat. First of all, yeah, sweating out the toxins is big, but I've heard different ideas about going back and forth between hot and cold. Or I've done things where I've been in a sauna and then I jump in a pool, and pool's pretty cold if your body's at that heat. But something about resetting the thermostat, I think it has to do with immune response type things because we've talked about this too. I know, Jason, on past ones, but your body gets taxed every time the immune system is called upon to fight something. And we're seeing a rise in autoimmune disorders. And, you have to wonder if it's just because so many other things are out of whack in our system. A lot of it being environmental as well. What we're breathing in. Pollutants and chemicals and preservatives. But my understanding is that the switching between the hot and cold, it helps to chill out, so to speak, that immune response, and maybe not have your immune system be so trigger happy so that the slightest raise in temperature, the slightest thing that it detects as an antigen or something outside the body, that it instead of doing a calculated strike, it does this carpet bombing, and you get not even a full-on cold, but you might just not feel 100%, or you might need a little more sleep, or you might be congested, and it's because you're inflamed and there's this immune response. So again, I'm not talking scientifically. I'm just threading together different random things that are in my head from what I've watched and read, just having a somewhat of an interest in these things over the years, and I'm pulling it together now on the fly as we're speaking. So it's not very ordered or scientific. I'm just kind of throwing out these themes, and that I know that at least some people discuss these themes in relation to the hot cold. So if you're interested, you might want to look in it more. I just know experientially, you feel a lot more relaxed and a sense of well-being when you go between hot and cold.
Yeah, I think that's what they were talking about in the chat. They said something about like hot and cold tubs. I had never heard of like a cold tub. I don't know if they were talking about like a cold shower.
Ice bath.
I've heard of that, a cold shower, and that is not for me.
Oh, you should try. I'll try running more if you try. A little. It doesn't have to be freezing at first where it hurts, but just a little bit between hot and cold in the shower. I do that.
Do you really? Wow.
Between hot and cold, like go from hot to cold. If you don't have a sauna and a hot tub and a cold pool to go into, at least we could all do it in the shower, hot, cold, and you do feel invigorated after it. And again, another way to get the blood flowing, lymph moving as well. I think that's another aspect of this. That's your kind of the garbage man of your body, the lymph system. I think that is very activated by those switches between hot and cold, from what I remember.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, because you need to keep as healthy as you are. As I said, environmentally these days, we're all taking toxins in, so we need to do things to help our body remove those toxins as best it could.
Yeah, well, that's true.
If you do get into a sauna and have physical activity, pace yourself. You don't want to overheat and then faint.
Of course.
And everything, I just want to say, I think Jared brightly touched upon this a little earlier. None of us we're not experts, and make sure you speak with your doctor before following any of the ideas that we have implemented in our own lives. And that's what we're talking about here. None of this is a final fact, and now you can move on with it for the rest of your life. But speak with the professionals. Although I will tell you that a lot of what's out there, people will charge you a lot of money for, and we mentioned this one time before, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
They'll charge you a lot of money for, and you'll conclude that you're getting something that's worth all that money, and that simply is not the case. Very often, you'll have folks who will, might be the case here. Of course, the ear is against the door, where they have very powerful things that work that they can recommend, and you're not being charged a cent for it. And it doesn't mean that it's valueless because you're not being charged for it. But keep that in mind as well. But we have, and this one's a question that really, I guess, Jared, for Jared, because it's Carlotta asking any recommendations regarding gyms that play AW music. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Well, I should probably saying anti-white music, like how to avoid it. If that's
anti-white music. So that's not a particular. Okay.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
Recommendations regarding gyms that play anti-white music.
Well, just use your. I mean, if you have to go to that gym, use your own headphones, of course.
There you go. Use your or I mean, you'll just have to check out another gym. You can also, approach the manager and speak with the manager about the music being played. It might not change right away, but I mean, if this is the kind of thing that we should be doing, you could approach the manager and say, look, this music is anti-white, and I really don't appreciate it. I pay for a membership here. I hope you will consider changing the station. Gyms have the ability to do that, and almost all of them. And so that's the best thing we can recommend there. Ultra Testosterone says, gives us his opinion about Putin. And he says that he believes that Putin will take Kiev around the end of April. Thank you very much for that.
Real quick on the water thing too. Yeah, someone said in the chat, shower filters. I do have shower filters. I'm taking out fluoride everywhere, multiple filters around me. And I know there was a little debate about cold shower. Some people saying it's not doing anything. Again, your mileage may vary. Look into it yourself. I know the whole Wim Hof thing is, I didn't know this till I listened to an interview with him a few months ago. So he went through extreme stress at one point in his life a few decades ago. He had a family and was very happily married, but his wife, unfortunately, had some kind of severe mental health issue and committed suicide. And he was raising children on his own, dealing with the devastation of this woman he thought he was going to grow old with, who killed herself in a pretty extravagant manner, and was very low on money. So, he went through an extremely stressful part of his life, and he got into all this stuff that I would think most people know who Wim Hof is. He's pretty well-known internet personality, and you see a lot of his stuff on the internet. Is he puts himself in these extremely stressful situations like ice baths, and he also uses the heat too. He does these crazy things like run across the desert with barely any water. And he said that he's trained his body to, same kind of thing that I was saying earlier, lower its threshold of how it responds to stress by kind of exercising the muscle of putting yourself in stressful situations and getting to this point where you kind of clear out this. I'm sure most of us have experienced living in the modern world. Maybe some of it's because we're supposed to be moving more than we are, like Jason was saying before. But there's certainly plenty of other factors, different stresses on all of us. Is even if you're a relatively well-adjusted person, a lot of people still deal with kind of this low-grade anxiety just kind of humming in the background, and a lot of us might not even realize it. And he says that that is sapping your mental and spiritual energy. It's causing you to be in a constant state of inflammation, which has a whole host of effects, again, mentally and physically. And so, again, I'm not necessarily supporting it or endorsing it. I'm just putting on record that that's a school of thought that's talking about the cold showers. There's a whole host of things that goes along with it. It's definitely interesting to consider. Even if you don't go that direction, I would say even if you think about foods and herbs, not silly herbal supplements that someone's trying to sell you, but actual herbs under the care of someone that knows what they're talking about, have been used to keep the body in a state where, again, it's not overreacting in an immunological sense, and thus causing inflammation, and thus keeping you in this shallow breathing state of fight or flight, or that low-grade anxiety that I just mentioned. I think there's a lot to explore there. It's too much to, of course, go into now. But I think that certain trends in the health and fitness industry are increasingly kind of converging on this kind of theme as something that, no matter your body type or no matter your fitness goals, is kind of like a building block, is removing those stresses and removing those inflammation producing either foods or practices, lifestyle things, or thoughts even. And that, it's kind of a first domino that sets a lot of other things in motion and could be a root cause of a lot of disease and just not living to your full potential.
Oh yeah, you're definitely not going to live to your full potential if you've squatted down on the couch and then gamed all your days away. Here we have Diamond Dust has asked or said here, let's start and finish, or suggested here, start and finish with stretching. Do just stretching if starting out from a couch potato position. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I know we have a professional limber young lady here, and she can speak to that. What are some of the benefits of stretching?
Oh, stretching is everything, I think. I mean, I think that if you work out and you don't follow up with stretches, and I don't always stretch before I work out, and I probably should. I think that is definitely recommended, but I always stretch after, because I think that if you really work your muscles and you don't follow it up with some really good solid stretches, then I think you're more likely to hurt the next day. I think the lactic acid is more likely to build up. And I really don't think that you're getting like the full range of motion then in your workouts. And that's really important. Like, you see people working out and they think that they're doing something by like getting on the machine and working as fast as they can, like with as much weight as they can. And often that's not doing like anything at all. So really it's important to have control, and it's important to have full range of motion. And in order to have full range of motion, you really have to stretch the body.
Yeah, that's one of the places I totally dropped the ball, Jared.
I was going to say I love stretching and want to continue doing more of it. I'll just second that and add I very closely link stretching with breathing, and I think I spoke more at length about this on one of our spring 2019 TAP specials on health. It's so overlooked, but oxygen is the first nutrient, and keeping we talked about keeping the blood moving, keeping your innards moving, your digestive system moving, keeping the lymph moving, which removes toxins. But breathing, you cannot feel your best and be in an optimal state of well-being if you're always doing this kind of very shallow, high chest mouth breathing. It's a practice. It takes practice, but breathing lower into the abdomen and filling up from there, feeling your solar plexus expand, and then it goes up into the ribs. You're starting in the base, and then kind of like a pyramid, that wider base at your hips, and then up to your chest. It has a whole host of benefits, and it even goes into what I was saying before about people having different kind of anxieties and stress responses shallow chest breathing is that is the fight or flight response. And you don't always want to be there. It's designed for certain circumstances, but to live there is, again, it's everything I've been saying. It's inflammation. It's taxing on your emotions, and the stress is going to affect your longevity, your life, and even emotions. Like, I, of course, see it with singing and how important breathing is, and feel differently and more open and more able to connect with people. Like, if I just did like singing exercises and then I go out and meet with people, I'm invariably more centered in myself, and at the same time more open emotionally and happier usually when I've done some singing, because it opens up the breathing. And maybe not everyone's a singer, but we can all be more aware of the breathing. It's so deceptively simple. But even with bringing up emotions, it's better to deal with emotions than have them buried, because again, it's creating a drag on you. It's like I hate using computers as metaphors for people, because we're not computers, we're not robots, we're more than that. But everyone knows computers these days, and there are useful analogs. And it's like having programs running in the background. It's taking your CPU usage if you have buried emotions, and breathing's going to get you in touch with that. And if you have some serious stuff, then do it with a professional or someone can help you. But there's a reason singers are stereotypically crazy people, because doing that kind of breathing all the time and having your chest and your abdomen open, things aren't as buried, for better or worse. So you have to deal with that stuff, or if you don't, I guess you become, unfortunately, some tragic case where you have these singers who die early of drug addiction and things like that. A whole other topics. I know we're like throwing out a lot right here, but yeah, Carlisle, when you talked about stretching, I can't decouple it from breathing. And there's literally a site called breathing.com. This guy from North Carolina, I've recommended him before, Michael Grant White. And some of this stuff is like breathing machines, and you might think, geez, he's trying to sell me stuff, because that's a little expensive. But there's programs he has that just give you some tips on breathing, or some tools to help like expand your chest. I've used them and for years, and I recommend checking them out.
Check it out, folks. We're going to be rocketing through a little bit of what is remaining here for time on the show. So if you have any financial gifts or questions or comments, get them in now. Make sure you tag me if it's going to be on one of the live chats, whether that is D Live or Odyssey or YouTube. So I'll take a quick look here. We have Cowboy was saying something about can all afford an RZR. I guess that's the Polaris. It's a all-terrain vehicle. Either can I. That's why I was very lucky to be able to join the one and only, the great Johnny Reb on his adventures out in the Badlands. We have Kaber financially gifting. Get out your raucous emojis, please, everyone. I beg of you. $25 financial gift from Kaber. Thank you so very much. And with the $25 financial gift, it says here, foam roller 2, a foam roller 2, as well. And I don't exactly know where the foam. Oh, you mean for stretching? Yes, that's okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And let's roll. We have, and Carlotta did confirm that it was anti-white music, not a particular genre that I was unaware of. Elaine Sabatino saying to me, you did a great job on the Hake report, as usual. Well, thank you so very much. Archangel says, how do you mass on a low-carb diet? You don't, really. You can, but it's going to take forever. And so he says, I mean, I know you don't need to mass, obviously, but how does one do it? Tons of fat for energy? Yes. Consume fat. But you'll need carbs as well, complex carbs. And remember, it's more important what you ate yesterday or 36 hours ago, whatever. That's going to be more important than what you eat right before. So make sure that you're getting the calories you need. And it's also important that, before I say that you have tricked your body into believing that food is abundant. Because if you haven't, then you're going to just put a bunch of fat on over top of your muscles. So make sure you're consuming after that enough carbs or calories in toto for each day's physical activity, so that you don't end up with a net carb left over, and then you end up just packing that into fat. So you got to keep a close eye on that, and it might mean that you become very aware of how your pants fit around your waist, this sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely. If you're trying to bulk up fast, then that's what you have to do. And let's see, flying through this, we'll refresh that. Irish Ice says, thanks for Go Free, brother. Well, thank you. And I think we have a financial gift from you over on Entropy. Popcorn Powers, thank you all for applauding there. Okay, looks like we're still blank here. I don't think we missed any tags on the live stream of YouTube. I don't see any on D Live. We have over here on Entropy, Irish Ice indeed, financially gifting $5. Thanks so much, brother. Odyssey is also blank, no tags over there. Irish Ice writes with his $5 financial gift. 2 white-guilted cowards tried to socially lynch me the other day because they witnessed me standing on a sidewalk and not immediately making way for an anti-white predator. I made quick work of them by shouting them down as anti-white. Well done. That is fantastic. And it, folks, I mean, Irish Ice doesn't mess around, and it's a great demonstration of how you can put an anti-white in their place rapidly with the lexicon that we teach here. You have to have a powerful mind if you're going to have a powerful body. There are many people out there who have reached out to me to tell me that once they started going free, once they started actually using the practice on themselves and in their lives, they were able to break through plateaus in their workout objectives. So they were stuck at a bench press, or they were stuck at a deadlift, or they weren't able to lose the other pounds. As soon as they started to work on themselves and they made progress with how they viewed themselves, how they viewed our people, they were better people. They were lighter people. It's like talking about what Jared George was just saying. You don't have any of your energy, your CPU going to thinking about how you're a member of this evil group. And then you really begin to unleash who and what you are. And it looks like that's it on Entropy. And I know I wanted to do something else really quickly. And we're going to be getting out of here, folks. But very quickly, I wanted to show this is a self-portrait by Groundhog Fury. And as you can see, he has very well defined upper arms and pectoral muscles. So he's obviously been knocking out the push-ups, not just been digging little burrow. So I think Carlisle and Rory are going to start a gym for groundhogs.
Absolutely.
And on that note,
and I just think that there's a couple of good things that were said in chat. Nancy Drew said habit and routine are key. And I think that that's really important. And then somebody in the D Live chat, I think it was Bertie Bassett, said that small wins are important. And I think that that's a really good thing to kind of close out on, is that people do need to realize that it is, it's incremental and it's not something that you have to go out and do all at once. So small wins are important.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Is that the final thing you want to share?
That's it.
Okay. Well, Mr. George, final thoughts?
Oh, well, it was fun. It went very quickly.
Yeah.
I'll return to something that was mentioned briefly before, but dancing. Group activities aren't necessarily only sports.
Yes,
and
exactly.
In the States, there's a stigma in some places, in some ways, with men dancing, but not a bad thing to know how to do. I definitely want to learn more formal dances, actual dances you could do with a partner, with a woman. It's an amazing thing for couples to do. And obviously there's a tremendous emotional aspect to that too. So think about that. Check that out as well. But it was great speaking with both of you. Again, these are just the beginnings of things, but hopefully Might have been helpful for some people to get them started or keep them going with some of their own health pursuits. But it's never ending. Health is, it's not just this compartment that we sometimes go to. It's woven into every aspect of your life. And I hope all of you are as whole and healthy as you can be, and keep getting better. So my love to you, and we'll talk soon.
Well said, both of you. We have here Promethean Epoch asking, it says his universal weight setup. Do I know if there's a way to add more weights to it? Not exactly sure. Get back on Sunday and let me know exactly what kind of a setup that is. And then I will make a suggestion if I have one. Lockie says, does TAP have a set date when it's live, or is it when one feels like it? Well, we try to make it work for the guest as often as possible. And thank you for asking that. So I will say to everyone as we tap out, it was wonderful to be here again with all of you. Thank you to everyone who asked a question, made a comment, and financially gifted. It means so very much to us. And we will look forward to seeing you all again next time.